Welcome back to Bisexual Podcast. That's not right. Welcome back to Bisexual Coffee. Yeah. Get the goosebumps out. Welcome back to Bisexual Coffee, where it's only $7 and it won't break the bank. Today's going to be a little bit different because Edith is going to be kind of a mediator, kind of in the background, making sure everything is running smoothly. She's also going to jump in case for some reason I have to go somewhere. And we're going to focus on today's guest, Marcus Allen Frishman, who is a very interesting individual. It's first time on the podcast, and we want to make sure our focus is on him. So we hope you enjoy, and let us know what you think in the comments.
You know, I have a nickname. It's called Sir Chief.
Tell us about it.
I will in a minute. But I think we should just add, like, everything as your nickname. Just the word everything.
Everything. Yeah, I'm everything.
Because you're everything.
I mean,
I'm a lot.
We could call her Bagel, short for everything bagel. I'm fine with that.
Oh, I like that. Everything
I like
bagel.
that too.
We're onto something.
Cool.
Excuse me, Michael. Hi, I'm Marcus.
Hello, Marcus. I'd shake your hand, but that's hard to do through a computer screen. How are you?
I'm not a big toucher.
Okay. Well, I would delight in making you uncomfortable. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Look, I loved the COVID moments because I didn't have to shake hands.
I will say
Oh,
this.
man.
I am a big fan of maintaining the 6-foot distance in the grocery store now. People will get very close behind you because they feel like that's the safe thing to do. I will move to the other end of my cart, put the handle and the entire cart between me and somebody else. The last time I did that to somebody, I could hear them in the background going,
I respect that. I don't do that because I'm not, I am a hugger, but I'm not a toucher of hands. Hands are really dirty.
You'll put your entire body against someone, but the hands are a no-no.
Well, the clothes.
A quick story on the hands. So when I was 17, I was volunteering at the Motion Picture Health and Welfare Fund for a couple of years. Actually 1 year. And they suggested I become a nurse. So they had a training program for nursing assistants. And I went into that program, became a nurse, and then stayed there 3 years as an employee doing decubitus care. But the point is, I had an in-service where we didn't know what it was about. It was a secret in-service. In-service, you know what an in-service is, Edith. Michael may not know what the word means. It means training in your job.
Okay.
So we have this half-hour training program. We go into a trailer, and we don't know why. We're handed a piece of paper, and we're all sitting down, and she turns the lights out at about the 15-minute mark.
Okay.
After a dumb lecture that was completely irrelevant. The paper had a glowing substance on it. So we touched this paper. We were told to put it down after we touched it, never to touch it again. Oh. And then she's doing a lecture. 15 minutes later, the lights go out and the black light goes on. And what is glowing, let me assure you, it was way more than the paper.
Yeah.
It was quite embarrassing, the spots on the body that people were touching all over your face. And she did it to prove the contamination of bacteria on the hands that could be passed easily with viruses as well.
That would definitely be a lesson that would stick with me. I can see
Never
why you
got it.
That's in your brain now. Yeah.
I can tell. Look, I have the same aversion to hands that Marcus does. I know what he's talking about because when you work in the hospital, there's something called hospital-acquired infections.
Sure, I guess.
And in the hospital, they have teams of people that will go in and clean a hospital room.
Really?
Because of the amount of, dare I say it, fecal matter that is all over. It's all over everything. Think about the gas pump.
On how much fecal matter
I don't understand
everywhere.
Anyway, that's just a tangent, and I'll just
tangents happen here on Bisexual Coffee, and we welcome them. We normally we hug them, but we will only fist bump them. I'm a more of a fist bumper now that I'm thinking about it. Back before COVID and everything like that, it was like the Southern thing to do. You just shook a man's hand.
Sure,
And
I did.
yeah, and now after COVID, fist bumping is more the thing anyway. But if I recognize a hugger or elbows, yeah. If I do recognize a hugger, though, I'd be like, yeah, bring it in. I've been like that for years. Much to most of my bosses is the people who were above me dismay, because I'd be hugging everybody. He's like, please stop hugging people. I'm like, I love my fellow man. I don't know what's wrong with that.
So questions. We've got questions for you, Marcus Allen.
Oh boy, do we.
And just so you know, just so it's on the record, at lunch today, I jotted a few notes down just on topics. But you read them after you jotted them. I didn't. So I might look down because I think they're topics that we'll touch on. Possibly, I'm going to react to you, but if we don't, I might want to mention a few and might even hold one up to because I think they're great concepts. Okay. Big picture on some things, but that will be reactive to you.
I am very interested to see exactly how much overlap we have, because I will say this. I am coming into your sphere of influence and kind of finding the breadcrumbs of the internet where your name is peppered all throughout. And you are, by all accounts, to me, a very interesting individual. And I want to see where the mystery that has been made with other people using your name ends and you actually begin. Here's what I want to do. I have a list of things, and we can jump around as we want to, as we need to. But the first thing that I want to dig into is some of the more sensational stuff. And the first one being what you have given yourself. For one thing, labels. You put yourself, give yourself labels. And from what I can tell, one of them, especially your email, which I'm not going to blast out here for other people, gives you a title that I don't think you actually have within the government. And I'm wondering,
I love this question.
Yeah. Is this your way of putting it out there into the universe for hoping of reaping it later?
No.
Our next question.
We don't have to give the email address out, but needless to say, we will say that it begins with senator.
Yes.
Okay, so I was a student body senator. I was given an email address before I had a computer.
Okay.
I was also smart enough to resign from USC's student body senator position to take up I think it was $75 a day, and that was a lot, but it was student money, so they, $75 a day job as the parliamentarian instead. But I retained this email address that I never used. But when I finally got my computer and account after I graduated, you have to think about what year. I opened a account as my internet provider and an email provider, and both internet and email. And I remember just reopening an account. They said you have an account based on some basis, and that was it. And only once do I recall in my entire experience with that, and that is my only email address. When I say only, I'll explain that too. Only once do I remember anyone saying, hey, are you a senator? What does this mean? Or whatever it was. I remember the moment. It was a hotel reservation I was doing years ago. And she came back with, are you a senator? And she, oddly enough, this woman who was an employee physically at the hotel, asked me again when I arrived. So yeah, that's the only time I recall anyone mentioning it, other than people very close to me saying, hey, why is your email
Sure.
Now, is my provider of email. And I think there's a Gmail. I don't use it. I think my business internet site has a email address that forwards. Not I think I know, but I don't use it. The only email I use to send anybody anything is the one you're referring to.
That's wild to me, because I have, and I just counted them up the other day when I was answering a poll because somebody wanted to know, hey, how many email addresses you have, just because it's the internet. They ask questions like that. And I have 6 Gmail, and I'm pretty sure if I wanted to, I could reopen my Hotmail if I want to. I never got an AOL one, and I know that I have at least 2 Yahoo because when I first got an email, it was Yahoo, and then
I had a Yahoo, but I never used the email, and I
Yeah.
have an Apple. Apple assigns you. I don't. You have an Apple account, you get an Apple, but I don't use incoming or outgoing any of those.
So you don't
It's
have
for the cloud.
You don't have a junk email? Like I have one that I give to people when
No.
I just don't want to deal with it.
The closest we have to any other email being used is my, and I'd have to think what it is.
Don't dox yourself.
Group. Well, all right. So I can. It's my business email, and it forwards to. So that's a simple question. Thank you. No, my mother predicted. She had some psychic ability, and she said my son is going to be a senator. But she said it many times. But I have not. She was, her I think she said it pre my student body senator position. So
I mean that makes her right.
Right.
Well,
she called it.
She sounds pretty smart.
She was a wonderful lady.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry to belabor the
No,
question.
this is
that's
conversation,
all right.
Marcus.
We're having a great time.
This is fine. So the other thing that I wanted to know, we're talking about titles, is another one which I'm sure has a heck of a story, and I would love for you to regale people who don't know you about Terrorist Hunter.
The short version is I was forced to go to the Philippines for a 5-year period due to my work. A component of my work. I became very well known there because I was essentially California's representative to the Philippines. We are the third or fourth largest investor in the Philippines. Mm-hmm. Most people don't know that. Even we don't know that in California, but it was a fact. I did something that saved that investment that was going to be divested by leadership of California. Leadership's a significant word there. And I single-handedly saved it, kind of accidentally. Now, that's a great story in itself, but the point is that's what gets the Philippines under protest. I didn't want to go, and I kept going significantly 3 to 4 months a year for 5 years, living in a hotel.
Under protest each time, or by like the second time you just kind of knew this was your lot?
No, that's... let's digress. So the first visit, I went to my boss and I said, "Are you kidding me? I got to go to they want to honor me, the boss, but they're going to honor you. You go." Okay. Can I turn the 14-day visit into 7 days, please? No, you're going with Romeo and you're going to love it and you're going to do your job. And he's setting up all these things, and the government of the Philippines, the president wants you, the speaker wants, everybody wants him. All right, I'll go. Well, remember, I tried to reduce that 14-day trip to 7 days.
Right.
I had a dog and a girlfriend here. I don't want to go to the Philippines. I'm not a traveler to new places. It's not my style. A lot of reasons. But I had to go. So I went. On day 36, Romeo and I get off the elevator. Romeo's my employee, my colleague.
Okay. The
highest ranking Filipino political appointee in California, mind you. He had some stature. But he worked for me, and he and I are at opposite ends of the hotel Shangri-La hallway. By Romeo entering our room in the afternoon, and I look down at the floor, and there's a message, and I pick it up, and it says, "If you don't come home, you're fired."
Whoa!
And I quickly exit back to the hall. Romeo had the same message. "Boss," he shouts to me. I said, "Romeo, you got the same." We meet in the hall. We have the same message. It looks like the boss wants us back. Right. He called me boss. I called him. We both have the same boss. And this boss was an elected official, the second highest ranking Republican in the 5th largest economy of the world, California. It wasn't the governor, but somebody else. We decided we better quickly communicate and get back. That took us a week to actually do that. We got back. Boss was happy. But the point of the story is the trip I wanted to turn 7 days turned into 36, and frankly, I was willing to extend. I enjoyed the pomp and circumstance of that visit that repeated itself in equal ways for at least 2 years, and then slowly diminished over the 5-year period that I went there. It resulted in significant political advantage from my boss in California on a micro level with Filipinos. We have 1.6 million of them at the time, the largest conglomerate of Filipinos in any place in the country. And so politically, it's a thing. It's really not a Republican thing to go after ethnic groups, but you take what you can get, and it was forced upon us essentially by the circumstances. So we pursued it, and we raised a lot of money from Filipino groups. Anyway, I'm forgetting the original premise of the question. Terrorist hunter.
Yeah.
I'm established. I'm in the paper. I'm on television. Everyone knows me. The word's getting out. At some point, I will say 7 years into the Philippines, because I got a girlfriend, broke up with my American girlfriend of 14 years, got a Filipino girlfriend that I met on my very first visit. Met her within the first 2 weeks of my first visit. So I had a reason to go back now. I had a life in the Philippines after the job ends in 2008. And I keep going back, but I don't go back monthly. I go back long periods, 3 to 4 month stints, usually beginning in March every year. I had a girlfriend, had a life. I still lived in a hotel. Eventually I bought a condo. But at some point I was approached by individuals someone I knew at the hotel, someone I met at the hotel that to this day I suspect is CIA, and his name and would meet with me occasionally over the years. Eventually he said, Math, my nickname there is Math, M-A-F, Math, there's a project that we need your help on. Now, he's a mystery man. To this day, and I communicate with him regularly, but it's a mystery. What he does and why he's there. But nevertheless, he is part of introducing me to a man called General Ray. General Ray is not a general. He's a member of a young man, former member, but been in the military a long time, former Philippine military of a ranking I can't remember right now. We call him General Ray. I was introduced to Ray, and Ray said, Marcus, there's a group that is labeled a terrorist group around the world. They control the movements of someone wanted by the American government on the 10 most wanted list. We need your help to coordinate a possible turnover of this Al-Qaeda individual that's in their control in the Philippines. They are not Al-Qaeda. In return, they want some reward money. You can have some. And they want you to help. They think that this will help them reduce their terrorist status, international terrorist status, which is a thing, the United Nations, at the American State Department, to a domestic terrorist level. Domestic terrorist is what they want it to be, and they don't want to be an international terrorist. It comes with different restrictions.
Sure.
Because, and truthfully, they had domestic issues. They were a Muslim group in South Philippines that wanted certain Muslim control of their region, and they wanted a peace treaty with the Philippine government, and they would only blow up Filipinos and kidnap foreigners for income and some Filipinos for income. And so that was what they did. They didn't really bother the world community with international terrorism. But they want to turn over this Al-Qaeda terrorist, that they control his movement. So I don't quite understand any of this, although I have some experience in foreign affairs and national security issues, but that's not why I'm originally to be in the Philippines. And this meeting goes to a next meeting, and eventually I contact the State Department's Bureau of Rewards for Justice program, which is connected with the FBI and the CIA and the other 16 intelligence agencies.
Yeah.
And I tell them boldly in an email, very boldly, because I think exaggeration is the best thing to get attention, as long as it's based in truth. I said, indirectly, I control the movements of Marwin, and that it would be advisable if the State Department contacts me because I believe I could arrange a turnover of this terrorist by the fact that I control indirectly his movements. I was advised to, but I had to send that email several times. I was advised at some point by the State Department in writing and by phone to, when I got to Manila, to meet with certain individuals that were labeled as State Department employees. They were in fact CIA. Okay. Paul Kennedy. I released his name already, so which wasn't a proper thing to do, but it's public record. Yeah. And the other guy, and General Ray. I sit down with them and I tell them what we're going to do, and I have a plan that's very grandiose. Yeah. I'm going to be the one to take possession of the terrorist peacefully. I am going to be the one that will move him to proper locations for the Americans to take control.
Mm-hmm.
And I was admonished at my plan. And I had an investor. I had a very well-known international security company. They're more famous for transporting large amounts of money. I mean, enough to put on a 747, but legally. They do everything legally.
By international, because at this point you are subject to both, U.S. and Philippines.
Sure.
International to the Philippines or international to
No,
US?
it's an American company. It's an American company that has a contract in the Philippines to guard border intrusions.
Okay.
With regard to drugs and products and whatever problem they have, it's unrelated to this. But I knew him, and I contacted him and met with him, and he said, "Oh yeah, we can do this project. It's going to be expensive. We need a helicopter. We need a plane. We need another helicopter. We need this." So I developed a proposal. I can't remember if I did this on the second or third visit because I went back. Mm-hmm. But the point is, I presented this to the State Department. They admonished me. Let's just use that word. That's what I've used before.
I can imagine somebody in the boardroom before they even did anything is like, "What the hell is this guy thinking?"
Yeah, right. I'm not dealing with the Philippines yet. I'm just dealing with, but I got a plan. I watched Dog the Bounty Hunter. Anyway.
I do.
You think I'm joking? You think I'm joking? I said that in the movie.
No, I hear you.
Yeah,
I hear
of course not. Dog the Bounty Hunter. I'm the new dog. And he went to get, the funny thing is I thought it was perfectly because I looked all this stuff up and I found, Dog got famous when he went to the Mexico to get whatever.
Oh, he sure did.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, so it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm watching Dog on TV and I'm getting inspired. I'm not joking. So, I mean, it's funny, but it's serious. But let me just end with this. They say to me, "Marcus, we need verification." But they also told me, "We know these people. They're legit." Because I said all the way down to the point that I get the verification document. Cut me off if the story gets boring. All right, so they want verification, and I'm thinking, well, how do you get verification? Oh, that's easy. You have to get a letter. A letter from who?
Just get them to write a letter.
I said, this seems all right, but I'm trying to play like I know, I'm not hesitant. Oh, sure, we'll get a letter. Yeah, of course.
Right.
I'm the new
hey, whatever, man.
I'm the new terrorist hunter in town.
Piece of paper
of
with
course
a
we're going to get a letter. Yeah, we'll get a letter. And, okay, and I can show you that letter. So I go to Ray, and he says, "Oh yeah, that's no problem." Really?
Okay.
Oh yeah. I think I waited a week. I got a letter. I met Ray in an envelope. And I have the hard copy still, and I have the picture of it. It's on the terrorist letterhead.
I think
and
I've
it
seen
essentially is okay. It describes. I didn't know what it was when I got it, but it apparently is a document that is used to allow this guy to move around.
Okay.
It is kept with the people surrounding him and him so that they don't get killed moving around the South Philippines.
It's his papers.
There is a name for it. There's a name for it. And the reason I know this is when I finally did a story with the newspaper in the Philippines, I showed them the document. And she said, the first time I heard it, she says, "Oh, that's a," fill in the blank, the name of the document.
In my head, it is a terrorist passport.
This is not just a letter of verification. No, it's used, and she had a name for it. It was used for IDs internally down there so that they know who people are. Oh, okay, a means of transport document. Okay, so I faxed that document at some point to the State Department contact, my handler. It was called my handler.
Yeah,
and my handler took 3 days and texted me and said, "It's verified." At one point, I asked him, "How did you verify it?" Mm-hmm. And he said, "Marcus, we gave it to someone who went into the camp and went to Boy Hashimi, the chairman, to verify he signed it. Then we got a verbal from presumably it was a CIA guy to a source, the source to the actual signator. The signature's famous. I mean, famous. He's a well-known leader of the group.
Sure.
And he comes back with a signature. So that's how they got verified in 3 days. And then they informed me it's verified. And as I told you, I may have understated it. Before I was to get the letter, I was doubting the seriousness. When I faxed it, my fax cover sheet that I still possess in a file on that table, it had on it, I don't know, something like this. I don't know if it's real or not, or just another scam. But I put that in there because I felt like it, because I thought the whole thing was silly at some point, but everyone was taking it very seriously but me. Nevertheless, this guy, Marwin, was what he was called. The American State Department informed me that they will allow the Philippine government to do the arrest. It will be a domestic arrest by the National Police Force. And I questioned that. I was told that in the moment. I was being told not to arrange it myself.
Right.
And I said, well, why isn't this an American project? And he said to me, there are certain countries for which if Ben Laden had not been caught yet, or he already had, I hope I'm getting my dates straight, but the Bin Laden reference was made, and he said, if Bin Laden was here, we wouldn't go and get him. They would. That's the line that I was given. So whether it's correct or not. And Israel was given, Israel was another example. We would not go into Israel, he said, to get a terrorist. They would do it, and they would hand him to us. So that's
he probably broke some laws in the Philippines.
Essentially, that's what we did. We turned it over to the Philippine government. The National Police Force, not the military, engaged him in a battle twice over a couple of years. Failed battles. Americans provided, this is public information, it's on the internet. Okay. Americans provided drone searches, and then, here's the pinnacle moment. I'm in a taxi. I have just arrived to the Philippines. It's 1 or 2 days in the Philippines. I'm in a taxi, and there's a lot of commotion going on the radio. Immediately when I come in English and Tagalog, it's a congressional hearing, and I said to my taxi driver, what's going on? Because I couldn't make heads or tails of it. I wasn't in the car long, but it was serious. And he says, like any good Filipino knowing they're terrorists, he says to me, they killed Marwin. They killed Marwin? Him. I knew who Marwin was. How do you know who Marwin is? Well, he knew. You can be very stereotypic in the Philippines. So trust me on this. Taxi drivers in the Philippines are uneducated and they're poor. He knew who this was because that's their culture. They know this. They know who's South in the Philippines and wanted.
Okay.
So there's a congressional hearing. Now, I'm already an acknowledged, well-known American. They called me the ambassador. The state of California paid somebody to fly from Sacramento to my local office, not my Sacramento office, and change my title and add the word ambassador to my title badge on my door. My boss paid for that, or the state paid for that, because I was called the ambassador at that point. And
well, you are when you travel.
I'm not really the ambassador. I was a liaison to the CalPERS.
Okay,
I wasn't the agency that was involved with the investment. That was CalPERS, but I saved that investment, having a higher ranking than CalPERS. But anyway, back to the point. So the terrorist is killed. They grab his finger. They take it to the FBI Los Angeles. It gets verified in a couple of weeks.
Did you get to see his body?
It has hit the fan in the Philippines. But guess who shows up to the congressional hearing?
Who?
Me. I went to the speaker. The speaker, Belmonte, is one of my closest friends in the Philippines. He was Speaker of the House of Representatives. He was not on the committee doing this and was only remotely involved in it, but he is the speaker. I went right to his office. And I said, what do I do? And I think the whole story's wrong. This man never had to die like that. And there never had to be 41 killed on the Filipino side. 44. They're called the Fallen 44. They are a legend. They died killing this man. And I said no one had to die. The American government could have done it differently. It was supposed to be a turnover. Boy Hashimi, the chairman of this terrorist group, was going to give him to anyone I said so. They were going to turn him over. Nobody would have died, is the point. Maybe he would have at some point, but no one else, and he would have likely been taken to Guantanamo. But everybody wanted him dead, and they killed him unnecessarily, and 44 Filipinos died. So there's
in the Philippines, they wanted him
Philippines,
dead.
And the scandal, the hearing, why did 44 people die? Who knew about this? The president claimed he didn't. President of the Philippines at that point. The National Police Force did. And the story comes alive. So I'm on television, I'm front page of the paper in the Philippines, and I testified. They would only let me testify behind the scenes. I was in the room, but they would never allow me public testimony. The American ambassador put pressure on the Filipinos, don't let Frishman go there. Now, the national police chief was asked, what about Frishman? And he said, I defer you to the American ambassador. The ambassador was asked, it's on television,
right,
what about Frishman? And the ambassador says, we don't comment on ongoing investigations. Frishman's under investigation. So that was really the end of it. It diminishes at some point. This was the scandal in the Philippines was all about why are the errand boys of the American government, and how come our national military wasn't involved? A lot of components. But I made clear to the people that debriefed me on the Philippine side, the Americans never debriefed me. At some point...
So you just, I hate to interrupt you. So your involvement was more orchestrating the entire thing.
Yeah.
You put it together.
I located the target location, but I was in the taxi when I learned what happened. And I said to him, where did they find Marwan?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, they found him in Massapequeno. I pulled out my pen and a calling card. And I said, and I remembered it sounded like the place I told them he was at. I said, how do you spell it? I spelled it, put it on my back of my business card. I make the best notes on the back of business cards.
I understand.
I put it in my pocket. When I got home that night, which was before I met the Congress and the speaker and did all the interviews, I opened my file, which I traveled with back and forth to the Philippines several times over several years. I opened the file, and there it was. It was right there in that document, that matching name, which I'm mispronouncing, location. So I gave the target location. That's exactly where he was killed. There was a source, Marwan's companion, for lack of a better word, gave him up too, on the precise location. So on the third battle, they killed him. 44 men died, and it's a scandal. And that was what was sorted out in the Philippines.
The term terrorist hunter in this case is more born, it sounds like, because of how deep you were into everything. You were really, it doesn't even sound like you really knew how deep you were until much later. Like, you were probably already waiting.
I made that up. Nobody called me a terrorist hunter. I made it up myself.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, on your end, I feel like that's where that's coming from, because, I mean, it's a sensational story. You might as well have a sensational title to go with it. I mean, you wrote a book about it too, right?
I didn't write the book. I'm waiting. I have a website somewhere. I don't know how to find it, but it's there. It's kind of a placeholder, and it's a book placeholder website. If you know where it is, remind me. But my assistant Berna in the Philippines made one. The reason I needed to do that is I requested the file from the State Department via the Freedom of Information Act. The State Department, I almost sued them, but when they learned they were going to get sued, because I had an attorney interaction with them, they agreed on a release date. Look, you can't explain these things. They agreed on a release date of June or July, whatever it is, 2025. So in an email with a real person, multiple times when I ask for my update, they come back now with that date. That date I've only been given to me a few months ago. But for several years, they wouldn't provide me the file. And then we threatened the suit, and now they've given a date. So we'll see next summer if I get it.
So something may come out of that.
And those documents will be needed if ever I do write a book. But the book will only be of interest to Filipinos. But they're a massive book.
I don't think so, Marcus.
I don't think it's just going to be Filipinos, my dude. I think there's going to be a lot of people who would be really interested to read that, especially if you get your sources in. You get a couple of people to talk with you about that.
I'm going to have to get somebody to help me write a broader, interesting story to it. But it's amazing how little stories can be entire books, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, Michael has written Michael has written a book.
Please talk about my book.
Yes, I gotta talk about this book. He wrote a book. So the fact that, I mean, when you talk to him, he knows about the whole process.
I don't know anything about the process. I have somebody in the wings as a ghostwriter, but
yeah, I'd be willing to give you my my advice on is like how it's happened and everything like that, because it wasn't just a single story. I also interviewed other people. I put their stories in with me. So as I'm growing up in this book, because it's a memoir, these people are growing up with me as well. So it makes it for pretty interesting time. So if you can find
the name of the book,
it's called Dink, Dink. And it's available on Amazon. I can send you a link after
Tell
all
him
this.
about what Dink is. He was in the Navy.
I was in the Navy for 4 years, from 2001 to 2005, and it is my life experiences from the ages of 5 up until I get out of the Navy at 23. And it's mixed with D&D. It's mixed with firsthand experiences. It's mixed with various interviews of people that have been with me. It was a passion project. It was cathartic, and it was my first step to realizing I needed to go to therapy.
You said D&D. What is D&D?
Dungeons and Dragons, my friend.
Oh, of course.
It's a game.
No, I know it.
Yeah.
Everyone was playing it when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody's still playing it now. I guarantee it. In
fact, we're doing it this weekend, as a matter of fact.
We got a live show. I'm actually.
I'll send you the link.
You should fly all the way out to South Carolina, Marcus. We can entertain you in the nerdy bookstore. It'd be great.
I bet South Carolina is a beautiful place.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
It is. And
I'm staying in an Airbnb.
It's the perfect weather time right now too. All the trees are changing. It's nice. It's cool. It's crisp. The air smells and tastes like dead leaves. It's great. It's my favorite time of year. So let's talk.
You don't get any of that in Los Angeles. Go ahead.
So with you going back and forth to the Philippines and from the U.S., you said when you first started headed over there, your first trip, you didn't want to leave. You had a dog. You had a girlfriend. And then you go over there, and then there's a bunch of yada yada in that story. All of a sudden, you have a girlfriend over in the Philippines.
My girlfriend in America and I ended in 2003. I went to the Philippines for the first time in 2003.
Okay. Was it because you traveled?
I was single by the time I traveled to the Philippines.
Oh, okay. But was it the lead up? I mean, I don't want to dig too much in your
No, go ahead. Stuff. Ask anything. What was your question?
So was it the lead up going there? It was like, hey, look, I have to go to the Philippines, or
no connection. She wanted to marry me. We were together 14 years. We were engaged. I never married her. And she bought a wedding dress. We had an engagement ring. She was fine until the final year. But when I never did it because I wasn't ready, that was my line. But I loved her, and we had a wonderful relationship. She said, I can't wait anymore, and she left. Okay. And now, essentially, I wasted 14 years of her life, according to her. So I went to the Philippines sometime later that year. I can't remember. I think it was actually July, because it was the morning of the coup in the Philippines.
Okay.
And I arrived just after they closed the airports. And I didn't have a girlfriend. And within a couple of weeks, I met a lovely young lady named Tessa. Somebody introduced me to her, and we began a 3.5-year relationship. I got her a visa, brought her to America, and she hated it. She hated living here. She loved me.
Okay.
We didn't marry. She went back.
It works like that sometimes, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. So I talked to her the other night. I still see her family on every visit.
We here at Bisexual Coffee don't shy away from talking about things about sex and relationships. And since this kind of naturally came that way, with a little bit of diverting, but still, I mean, it was pretty natural. I feel like I did a good job. I'm a good host.
Yes, you are.
14-year engagement or relationship. How long was the engagement?
Hard to remember. I'm going to guess 7 years.
Okay. About half the time. All right. Yeah. Why such a long game if you knew that you didn't want to cross the finish line?
I don't know. I have an answer for everything. I loved her. We had a great relationship. She loved me. It was wonderful. And that's why we were heading to marriage.
Mm-hmm.
But I told her in this last conversation, I'm just not ready, but I want you to wait. Now, I became ready very quickly. We broke up. I got involved with someone else, and I was ready because I realized I had lost a woman because of it, a really significant, good relationship.
Okay.
And I lost this woman that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. So, and all my fault, all my fault. So now I believe I don't know, are you religious? Karma, payback, purgatory?
I'm
believe
Buddhist.
Karma.
Yeah.
My punishment has been not being able to get married, even though I've had an opportunity several times. So I've been ready for marriage since 2004.
Okay. I've been married. I'm on my second marriage. And I'm not going to lie. I learned from my first one. My first one ended very amicably. We went our separate ways. We are still very much good friends. We reverted back to the friends that we were before we got married, understanding that we were better friends than we ever were spouses. We didn't grow as spouses. We did not. We made plans. We never kept them, or we thought we were going to make plans, and then the other person would get scared and not actually have the conversation. It wasn't healthy. It wasn't verdant, I guess you could call it. We're doing better here. The economy is helping us not grow the way that we want to, but we have plans. We have desires. I fell in love with this woman, and I can see nothing but a great future with this person.
How long was the first marriage?
14 years.
Wow.
14 years.
You know what 14 years are like.
Yeah. Well,
I did it. I did it too, Marcus.
Yeah.
I did it too. I was married 17 years and we just couldn't. I think it was, I have a big ego and so did he. Now I've found healthiness in my ego, like a nice place to be. And I don't have to be right all the time. And I don't have to have things my way. And I'm friends with my husband, but I'm not going back.
You say husband, you're divorced.
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
Her situation, hold on, for me in the camera, it's this way. Her situation is a definition of a situationship and then kind of folded over a little bit. It's
I have a big family.
You too.
I have a lot of people that love me. Yeah.
Most of my friends have bad marriages, but for two that come to mind. And there's an interesting component in both of those two fabulous marriages.
Oh, yeah?
The wife is the breadwinner and significant breadwinner. The husbands are professionals, pretty smart, and have their own businesses, but they're failed businesses. I only say this because it's the two people who are in happy marriages that I know.
Out of that dynamic, this is you observing this from the outside. Obviously, you're not in their relationship. You don't know really what's going on in their house every time. But what do you think is about that is the negative aspect of that? What is causing a bad marriage?
Oh, well, no. Those are the two that have the good marriage.
I read that wrong. I do
All
apologize.
my other friends have the bad marriage. I haven't analyzed... Oh, because people have bad marriages for different reasons. But I was more curious and focused on, these are lifetime friends, both of them as childhood friends, and I see them regularly. And when I say them, I see them, not them and their wife. Mm-hmm. And although I know the wife and the children on both sides, they are so happily married. And I've dissected this as though it means something, but it's the only factor that's similar between both. It may be irrelevant, just a coincidence. May not be relevant at all.
It could be. Human beings are so multifaceted; coincidences pop up all the time. But I mean, heck, maybe you're onto something. You know, I mean, I'll be the first to admit it's not by much, but my wife makes more than I do. But the job that she does has so many different layers to it. I don't think she's getting paid enough, to be quite honest with you. It's been wild, actually, in this relationship to see someone who loves their job so much that they're willing to put up with some of the stress and maybe not as much pay as they could be getting. And any criticism that I normally give towards her, I'm like, hey, are you sure this is your job? It looks like it's really stressing you out in this way. I don't think you're getting support in this way. She's like, I love what I do. And I hope that's going to pay out for her. But it's been great to see that, because in my last relationship, because I was in the Navy in the beginning of our marriage, she didn't have to work. I was making that Navy money. I was able to bring that in. And when we got out of the military, there's a whole blank slate in her resume, and nobody wanted to hire her. And it just got worse and worse until maybe about 3 or 4 years before we got divorced is when she finally landed a job. And before then, we just kind of lived on cheap carbs and lived in a trailer. Like, it was, like I said, we didn't grow.
Economics is critical, I think, in relationships.
It is.
It almost sometimes defines them. Now, I'm not saying it should be like that or that it would be like that with me, but it's my observation. It matters so much to people that it destroys relationships and makes them thrive.
It jades your vision. Mm-hmm. It messes things up. I come from nursing. There are so many rules and laws and things that govern nursing. I have a doctor over me that oversees everything. I can't give a patient anything without a doctor's order. And I've had to get really good at nursing. So now I do really well. I can't complain. My bills are paid. I have no debt. I'm truly grateful. But when I first started and I didn't have the experience, it wrecks you as a person. The level of stress until you get, it's just like being a hunter, right? You don't, it's like, what am I going to do? What is this?
I saw it when I was in nursing. I saw it at my low level. But it's hospital nursing. I worked on a ward with other nurses, LVNs, an RN, then the supervisor RN. A lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure. So when I came home, I wanted compassion and I wasn't getting it. And then my ego would be, well, fuck this shit. But some people, they're not capable of thinking that way, and they haven't had the experiences that I've had and the inability to have compassion. And the thing is, I didn't have compassion for him. It takes two in a relationship.
I mean, it does.
It doesn't take one.
You got a tango, baby.
Yep.
Well, you know why, Edith, he liked you probably.
Tell me.
Because you're a nurse. A successful nurse is a giver, not a taker. And they care about other people before themselves sometimes. This diminishes their personality in some ways, but it's always good for the other person.
Right. Well, Right.
I mean, I bet he was happy.
Yeah, but
he was happy.
From what I've heard, Edith has done some growing and she understands her self-worth now.
Right.
Yeah,
and I love that.
I do. And that's why I'm in a situationship.
Right? So
which is an evolution. It's an evolution.
Yeah.
So seeing all these things, seeing what has worked for other people's relationships and seeing, what has not worked for yours, it's okay to say that, hey, it's my fault. But working on those faults is a defining part of what it means to become a better human, if not just for yourself, but maybe for somebody else who happens to come into your life. So what does that look like for you? How is Marcus Allen Frishman bettering himself from day to day?
I think it was just a bolt of lightning experience. I don't think I needed to learn it over time. When I lost her, and I didn't make any attempts to get her back because of the guilt that I felt because I thought she was right, and I loved her. And it was a very unselfish move to not attempt to rekindle it. I stayed in touch, but I didn't rekindle. And by then, in short time frame, I was in love with another woman. Your heart can be filled very quickly with someone else.
Especially when there's a vacuum created. Definitely.
That's right.
Sure. And that relationship was fabulous. It had the Filipino dynamic that why should she? I should point out something. There's a conventional thought that women in the Philippines, because remember, I'm spending a lot of time there. People say, what do you see about Philippine women? I don't. If I lived in France, I would probably date French women. I'd be in a committed relationship with a French woman. I suppose if I was in Italy, it would be an Italian woman. So there's no desire for Filipino women. In fact, I think it might even be a negative, frankly. It's a negative component. But nevertheless, it is what it is. I fell in love. She came to America and was shocked because I didn't tell her what life is like here versus there.
There's so much to explain. How could you have done it in a simple conversation? Let's be honest.
Well, I did it in my next relationship. I had several other back-to-back. I've only been single since 2019, probably 3 months.
Okay.
With the exception of a period in COVID lockdown. So I'm into committed relationships. I've never had a casual relationship in my life. I have long-term relationships. All of them have been good. Post-college, I had, let's say, contentious relationships in college because I was a different person and sought opposites. But I learned quickly in college, after college, I got to find a woman who's like me. So that, I think, is a major key to successful relationships, finding a match. Because then you don't have to deal with differences. Now, that may be selfish and narcissistic, fill in the blank, but it works.
It does work.
I mean, sure. I use this term only sometimes, but I have to say it feels like it might fit here. That might seem a little masturbatory for finding somebody who fits you so well that it feels like it is you. For me, and I want to get back to your relationship. I just want to throw this in here. The relationship I have right now, I am with somebody whose love language is arguing, who she needs to know.
Now,
she needs to know that I'm not placating her, that I have my own views, I respect her own views, and if they clash, we're going to talk about it. And sometimes I feel like she pulls like something out of an argument hat just to have an argument, and I'll play along, and I was like, you just want to fight right now, that's fine, and we'll just have it out. But
imagine if you didn't fight because she was like you. I use that phrase, but it might not be precise. I was walking to the bank teller machine at about the 3-year point of this relationship that we're talking about with Tessa was her name.
Okay.
And we fought on the way to the bank. We fought about her father's answering machine. And I won't bore you with the details of the components of that fight, but I'm giving you the topic. And that's what we fought from the condo down to the hotel room down to the bank. And after we got finished with the bank, I turned to Tessa and I said, Tessa, we should pray. And she's kind of grumpy, right? Why should we pray now? What are you talking about? We should pray to God that we have an argument like this every single day.
What did Marcus mean when he told that to Tessa? Well, you're going to have to find out in 2 weeks. It's not very often that we have such a long episode that we can't abbreviate it down, but there's just too much good stuff here. I didn't want to cut anything out. So I'll see you guys in a week with a very special episode. In 2 weeks, we'll continue the Marcus Allen Frishman interview. But we also wanted to say, hey, Spotify's got comments now, and almost everything's got a rating system. If you could rate our podcast, we'd love to know what you think, and comment below. If there's any way that you want to get in contact with us, you can either do that or get in touch with us at Bisexual Coffee Podcast, all one word, at gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, peace out, and word to your mother.